Hi everyone, it's Maria, your Midnight Baker. I had my starter out twice this week to do some extra baking while we're home. So when I was baking the second time, I realized I should probably do a little video about feeding your starter. So here you can see I've done my typical discard most of it for my baking project and feed it 45 grams of flour, 45 grams of water. And after 4 hours in the oven, again, light on, but oven off, you can see it's starting to do its growing. And after 4 hours, it's doubled. That's typically when I use it. But here I wanted to let it keep going to see just how big it would get. So I started checking on it every 20-30 minutes. And you can see after about 5 hours, it's continuing to grow, continuing to rise. What's important about this process is at some point your starter is going to peak. And that's what I was trying to catch through this record and capture. I didn't want to do a long time-lapse video, nor do I have the capability to film in my oven. So you can see here I am at 5.5 hours. This is probably actually closer to 5 hours and 40 minutes. At this point, I was checking probably every 20 minutes. I knew I was getting close. Lots of big bubbles here, which is what you want to see for a strong and active starter. And right here at about 6 hours and 10 minutes, I finally got what I wanted to show you guys. So my starter has peaked and it's begun to collapse. The way you know that is if you look at the top, you can see kind of like a smear of starter on the glass, but the actual starter level is just below that. And what that means is that your starter has peaked and now it's starting to collapse. And if you're worried that your starter is weak, people like to strengthen their starter by feeding it right at that peak. So you'd want to catch it at its peak, do your discard and give it a second feeding, and that's how you would strengthen your starter. So for me, it was right around the 6-hour mark. Want to give you a close-up here. You can see I pulled the jar out so that I can show you. It collapsed a little more when I moved the jar because it, starts popping those little bubbles. But you can clearly see kind of the smear of the starter where it reached up the sides and then is starting to collapse and drop down. So I want to quickly clarify here that this whole process of your starter growing, peaking, and then collapsing is really going to depend on your starter and your proofing conditions. The times that I gave you were just for mine, and that's just an example just so that I could show you kind of the process. But it's going to always depend on your starter, how strong it is, and how you proof it. So to give you a quick example, I had my first batch of starter at room temperature because my oven was being used. And at room temperature, which is much colder than the 80 degrees that the oven hits, it took almost 7 hours for me to even get my starter to double. So just wanted to clarify that. So at this point, having shown the starter peak and then collapse, I went ahead and moved mine back to the fridge where you can see it very quickly deflated and dropped down to pretty much the original starting level. And that's completely fine. It's still strong. It's just in its dormant phase and it can wait for up to a week in your fridge until you pull it out for that next baking project. So in this time of the pandemic, it sounds weird to even say that, but I hope you guys are staying safe and hopefully maybe using this extra time at home to get some extra baking done. Stay safe, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.